Hey everyone. I've been thinking about a sentence that's been haunting me for quite a while now. And in the last podcast episode, Jonathan also said something, you know, along these lines. And the sentence kind of goes like this: Children create survival mechanisms. Adults often mistake them for personality traits. And I want to dive deeper into this with you a little bit today. And this sentence, it kind of changed the way that I look at myself and the way that I look at other people and the way that I interpret what we're all doing here on this earth. know, we all created systems on how to react on things. And I want to dive a little deeper into it with this question. What if some of the things you call your personality are not actually your personality? My name is Jen. Welcome back to the With Jen podcast. And if you're new here, I would like to welcome you and I'd like to give you a warm hug because here we're discussing all these bigger life questions. We're going for psychology and mindset and living a healthier and happier life that actually feels like yours. So, our nervous system has one primary job, and that is to keep us alive. Its job is not to make us successful or confident or happy. It's not to make sure that we power through on the work and earn a lot of money or to make us look beautiful and look in the mirror and go like, "Oh my god, I look so great today." Or it's not it's not going to tell us jokes to make us happy, basically. Our brain, our nervous system wants to keep us safe. And when you're a child, your brain constantly asks, what do I need to do to stay connected to the people keeping me alive? Which makes sense because you're nothing but a child and there's this whole support system around you that keeps you alive at that very moment until you start taking care of yourself step by step. And that answer, so the what do I need to do to stay connected to the people keeping me alive, becomes your strategy. And in attachment theory, we are being taught that us children and all the many people around us adapt to maintain connection with caregivers so that we're being fed, so that we look cute and they cuddle us, so that we're not out and about alone. Belonging literally feels like survival to a child's nervous system. And that's why belonging for us as adults is also quite important, I would say. But it changes within ourselves. The only thing that doesn't really change until we're open to it are our mechanisms. So the way that we deal with our belonging. And I'm wondering, when you were little, who did you have to become to feel safe? Were you the funny one, the one that always had to relieve some tension in the household because your parents were fighting the whole time, or because there was always a clash with the neighbors going on, or anything like that? Were you the responsible one because one of your parents had left the nest and you had to fill up for that gap? Were you the invisible one because otherwise you might have gotten it with a belt? Were you the achiever because it never felt like anything was good enough for your parents or for your caregivers, really? Were you the peacekeeper or the caretaker? Because for me, I was definitely the responsible one and I was the peacekeeper. And those two, when I grew older, they kind of grew into I'm not worthy of love because I always have to be the first one giving it to other people. But when I look back, I don't think I was born believing I wasn't worthy of love. I think somewhere along the way, that became the safest explanation my little brain could come up with. So it was just easier for me to fit into these molds and to actually be the responsible one and to be the caretaker and the peacekeeper. Just like for so many of us, like whatever you have right now, if you believe that you're not worthy of something, or that you always have to be the one fixing things, or you have to be the one earning the money from a very young age, that's not your fault, okay? I just want to wrap my arms around you and say that it's okay, and that you are allowed to start thinking about the fact that that's not your fault. Because we still blame ourselves for all of that the whole time. And the problem here isn't adapting. The problem is forgetting that you once adapted throughout your childhood to a certain situation. Back then, you kind of stopped saying, I learned this. And you started saying to yourself, this is just who I am. So for me, I always identified myself as a caretaker or as a responsible one. So that became part of my personality. And I'm pretty sure that you do it too. And for example, a lot of people come up with these things, which are, oh, I'm just independent, or I'm just an anxious person, or I'm terrible at relationships, or a perfectionist, or always busy, or a people pleaser. But those things, we inherited them from the situations that we were in when we were a child. And I hope you're kind of getting the point that I'm trying to put across here, because these things are actually not who you are. You're not insecure, and you're not independent all the time. You actually need someone around you. You don't have to do this by yourself. You're definitely not terrible at relationships. I want to give that to you. You're not terrible at them. And you're also not a perfectionist. You are actually creative and original and kind, and you can relax, and you are allowed to say no to people. But our brains, they love consistency. So the identity that was given to us, or that we gave to ourselves, it becomes a filter for us. Once we believe, hey, I'm just this kind of person, our brain starts collecting evidence to prove that we're right. And it's kind of like when you concentrate on a car that you want to buy, or a bag, or whatever, you suddenly start seeing that car. So, right now, if I tell you to think about a yellow car for 10 minutes straight, tomorrow, all of a sudden, you will see that yellow car. And that's literally the confirmation bias. Not because your brain hates you, but because certainty feels safer than uncertainty. It's very, very normal what our brains are trying to do. And I want to ask you and myself, hey, when did I start saying this about myself? Who told me that I was this kind of person? Or what happened that made believing that certain thing about myself was easier? So for me, being the responsible one and the caretaker, it started definitely when I was like around 10 years old. My dad was never around, and my mom was always stressed. Someone had to step into the situation to say, oh, hey, I'll be the one taking care of this. I'll be the one earning some extra money. I'll be the one cleaning the house. I'll be the one taking care of my brother. And they started noticing that pattern without noticing it, I would say. It's maybe a bit weird. And they started to put more burdens on my shoulders. It also made the whole situation within my household easier. And I would get screamed at if I didn't do a certain thing, especially by my father. I would get kind of like big mouthed at because because I made this situation easier. But a kid doesn't realize that that's the thing that's happening. They're just very highly adaptive to a certain situation, and they want to make sure that the situation around them is safe, basically. So that's what happened. And that's probably also what happened to you. And I think this is where we get healing wrong a little bit. We try to fight the part of ourselves that protected us. But that part, Back in the day, way back when we were kids, starting the age of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that's the part that saved us. Maybe people pleasing, it kept the peace. Maybe perfectionism prevented all the criticism that otherwise you would get thrown at your head. Maybe the independence that you created protected you from disappointment from other people. Maybe staying small and just hiding yourself kept yourself safe because otherwise you would get the belt. Those were not flaws. They were incredibly intelligent adaptations because kids are so smart. They're way smarter than we give them granted for. They're terribly, terribly smart. So instead of asking, why am I like this? Try asking yourself, what was this part of me trying to protect? And notice for yourself how different that feels. Because one question creates shame, the other question creates compassion. And we got to start living within that compassion because once we recognize the situation, we recognize triggers, we recognize our mechanisms, we are ready to create compassion for ourselves, for the people around us, for the little kid that we were protecting back then. And I don't think my younger self was broken. I think she was genuinely brilliant. She was so smart. And she kept using a strategy that eventually became very, very heavy. Actually, way too heavy to carry. And whenever I ask myself the question, why am I like this? I'm like, oh, because I'm just very picky and I just want to do all this stuff by myself. And, I've got too much to give or not enough to give. And I turn the question around and I ask myself, what was this trying to protect? It was literally my livelihood back then. It was my personal safety because I didn't know whether I was safe or not. That opens up a door to compassion. So, yet again, I know I'm being very repetitive over here. I would love for you to think of the question in that way. What was this trying to protect you? And why? And how can you become a little bit more aware of the fact that you're still doing it in other situations, even though the older situation is not here anymore? Or if it's here, it's because the yellow car that I've summoned for you and that you're thinking about the whole damn time, it's something that just catches your eye and it thinks that it's easier if you're putting yourself in the same situation because you know that situation. And I don't think, and I hope you think the same, or I hope that I'm waking you up a little bit, that healing is about never getting triggered. I still get triggered. Jonathan, my previous guest, he still gets triggered. The goal is not to stop feeling. The goal is to notice who's driving right now, who's driving your gorgeous brain. Is it you as an adult? You who has the rightful power of attorney over the little child in your head, or is it that little child? Because your brain, it builds neural pathways. And the more often that you repeat a behavior, the easier it becomes. So if you're trying to heal and you're like, oh my God, this is hard, that's so natural. That is so okay for your brain to think. But it's also good to tell yourself, okay, every day I will do 0.001% better. And over the course of a year, that will be like 30%. And over the course of 10 years, that will be 300%. The whole thing becomes a tiny bit easier each day. But I know that the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months, it's so hard to notice because you're so busy with, oh, but the child is driving. Oh, but the child is driving. But yet, I do want to tell you the fact that you're recognizing that your 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old is driving makes you realize that that part now it's over, hopefully for you, or that you have to put yourself in a different situation. And the beautiful part about all of this really is that neuroplasticity, so literally the fact that your brain is flexible, it works in all sorts of ways. New pathways can be built the whole time, and it doesn't matter how old you are. Granted, it takes maybe a little bit longer because You're now 70, but it's still possible. And yet again, it's not overnight, but through repetition, it's through all the tiny moments, it's through all the little different choices that you're making. And I want you to make that choice for yourself today. Ask yourself another question. When was the last time I reacted instead of responded? And don't feed any shame around it. Just be curious about it, because I still react instead of respond. Okay? I'm still there the whole time, even though the last 10 years I went through full therapy and now I'm doing all this research. I still have it. I think at least once a week. So someone comes to me and someone triggers me, my partner triggers me, and I go, oh my God. And that's also nowadays simultaneously the moment where I realize, oh, hold the phone. This is a child reacting to the whole shebang. It's okay. It's okay for me to step back a little bit. Stop shaming yourself and just become curious of your reactions and try to turn them into responses. Because if you react, normally that's within the moment. But whenever you've reacted and you're like, oh, shoot, that's a stupid reaction, because it happens to everyone, just take a moment and step back. Maybe literally step back, go outside, take a walk, empty-headed, 5 minutes, and check how you could respond instead of react. And I know responding takes a little bit more time because you basically have to think a little bit about what you've just done and said, but it's so worth it. And this is my favorite part, because healing is never just about you. We're always like, oh my God, I'm healing, so I'm doing better, and me. But psychology tells us something fascinating. Nervous systems regulate each other, and that's called co-regulation. We've all heard of this term. And if you haven't, I'll give you a little for instance. So, for example, you're walking into a tense room, and we've all done that. And we felt the tense room. You really feel it in your bones. And then someone smiles at you. Your body responds to that. So that's co-regulation. We're constantly influencing one another. And imagine this for a little bit. You become slightly calmer. You apologize sooner. You ask for help. You regulate yourself. Who benefits? It's your partner. It's your friends, your children, your colleagues, your clients, your future family. Healing ripples. So definitely, healing is not only about you. It's for everyone. And you're the one who gets to choose to be that person to do it and to pay it forward. That's the ripple. We often think healing is selfish. I actually think it's one of the most generous things we can do. Because the fact that I've been healing for the past couple of years, and the fact that I'm now co-healing with my partner, ensures that we will be all the better for our nieces and nephews. We will be all the better for people on the street. We will be all the better for our pets, because they also feel like we love them more purely. It's so worth it, and it's not selfish to heal. And this is a part that excites me a lot, because if some of your personality is actually protection, then what's actually underneath all that protection? It's not a new person. It's probably the real you, the version of you that doesn't constantly have to survive. So the whole ordeal of what we've discussed in the beginning, and the fact that you're just independent is actually, I learned to not rely on anyone. Or I'm always productive is actually, I learned that my worth came from achievement. Or I'm bad at receiving love is that you learned that love wasn't always safe. If you debunk all of that, you know that you don't have to be fully independent. You're allowed to count on other people and have friends. You don't always have to be productive, because you've already achieved so much, and now you're the own boss of your achievements. And now love can actually feel safe, instead of you telling yourself that you're bad at receiving love. So I want to leave you with one question this week. And it's not what's wrong with me, but what part of me is still trying to protect a younger version of myself. Because maybe you're not difficult. Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're not too much. Maybe you've simply become incredibly good at surviving as a young kid. And a beautiful thing about survival strategies is this: they got you here. And I'm so proud that you're here, because a lot of us along the way give up. But they don't have to take you where you're going. Okay? You can take yourself where you're going. You're probably craving the codependence a little bit. And I don't mean that in like the bad term of the word, but you're craving for that love and for just a little bit of acknowledgement. We're all craving to be heard and seen. And you can go get it. I'm so fucking proud of you. I think that's all what healing really is. It's not becoming somebody else, but gently thanking the parts of yourself that kept you alive before telling them, you can rest now and I've got it from here. So there you go. I hope this helps. And I hope my insights weren't too messy. And I hear you, and I see you, and I care about you.